Learning more updates as the meeting abruptly ended. There seems to be no major breakthrough as clarity on that still remains to be achieved. Russian President Vladimir Putin, during his press briefing after the talks with the President Donald Trump of the United States, gave a statement on President Trump's administration. He has stated, and I quote, that today when the President Trump had been the president back then, there would have been no war, and I am quite sure as it would indeed be so, unquote. Let's now listen into the full statement.
To remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, businesslike and trustworthy.
Aditya Vadhavan, my colleague, joins me for more details. Aditya, in fact, we have heard the statement made by the Russian President Vladimir Putin on exactly what he thinks of the war. He had been quoted saying that if Donald Trump had been the president back then, the war wouldn't have happened. Share more details in this context.
Well, absolutely. He has been saying, he has said this statement in this meeting, this reminds us of the fact that, during the first term of the US President Donald Trump, both the leaders, both Trump and Putin, shared a very close camaraderie at that point of time also. And now, however, at this juncture, we have seen, Trump getting frustrated by Putin's actions, that he's not stopping the war. Still, he has, gone ahead, holding back-to-back rounds of talks with Putin so that, he can convince him for stopping this Ukraine war. And at the same time, Trump has issued now some serious economic threats for Russia if it doesn't stop the war. So this time it needs to be seen now. He has given us some sort of an ultimatum to Putin, to whether to stop the war or face consequences. But however, it needs to be seen, how this is true actually in terms of actuality and practicality. Whether because he has been saying some things. However, in the recent past, we also see that the U.S. president had ordered the U.S. fighter carrier to be placed close to at an appropriate position close to Russia, when former Russian President Medvedev had made claims, had made a statement which just angered Trump. So at this juncture, it is a wait and watch situation now. What happens and whether Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet or not, this needs to be seen.